Welcome along, my aspiring allies, and thank you for joining me on this most recent episode of the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. Today, I am joined by Scott Martin. Now, Scott is an award-winning soccer coach, an author, a quad amputee, and a committed disability advocate. Today, he came to us to share his story, as he has most recently captured in his book, Play From Your Heart. And his journey really is one of resilience, recapturing self-confidence, and a lot of our conversation, unsurprisingly, did focus around his commitment to being an advocate for the disability community. And he's got some great advice for all of you listening on how you can be more inclusive in that space. We also spoke a lot about football because you will know this episode is going out during the World Cup, and Scott is a soccer coach based in the US, so it would be remiss of us not to have that conversation. But there is so much goodness in this. It really is, and even in his own words, a bit of a Disney-esque story. So I'm sure this is one you're going to want to listen to, because no doubt it's going to be a movie at some point, and you can have heard it here first. So without further ado, please sit back, relax, and get comfortable in whichever way works best for you. And please welcome Scott Martin to the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. So it's interesting. So as you know, we are already recording. So there may well be something of this I'll snip and pop in, because you never know what we're going to say that's going to be funny or interesting. Sometimes nothing. But what I found so incredibly curious lately is that when I kick off this podcast, there's something around when I'm chatting to people, like nobody ever just like wakes up and is like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And their careers come about for a certain reason. But I was thinking about with you, I was like, well, your story is absolutely, your whole journey is your story, right? It's not just a kind of a moment where your values were kind of presented to you, or like your life is your story, is your journey, right? And I thought, gosh, there's no way to ramp up into that. It is absolutely, it's your why is pretty obvious, and it's pretty there. So I was thinking this is kind of like the opportune moment, I guess, that I really want to begin this by just giving the floor straight over to you to be like, Scott Martin, tell us all, how did where you are today come about? Because I think, you know, everything that you have shared with me so far in the pre-conversations we've had tees up just exactly the reason why you're having the types of conversations you're having and doing the kind of work that you do. So I don't want to fluff about anymore. I just want to hand you the mic and be like, tell us what brought you here.
We're asking that right now.
Yeah, we are.
What brought me here? So I've done, gosh, now well over 50 podcasts and plus journalist interviews and things like that. And something like this has come up a few times, Katie. And one guy really got into the psychological aspect and looked into my youth. So I stem from a mother that by the time she was 19 had a young child, my half brother officially, Denny, and her husband was over in World War II and ended up dying. So at 19, he was shot. So at 19, she was a single mom and probably trying to figure out life, you know. So that was one tough woman that I came from,
Right.
and who ended up raising 6 kids, going through a divorce in the early 1960s when it was poo-pooed on for women to walk away from a marriage, working 3 jobs. I mean, just juggling so many things. So I do know where my work ethic comes from her,
Yeah.
because sometimes, and we all know this, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's around the next corner. It would just show up and figure out how to deal with it. And sometimes, you know, life hands us shit, and we just have to deal with it. So I can point back at my mom for
Yeah.
everything that she presented to me and passed on to me. So that was the
Yeah.
start, you know,
Yeah.
how
So
we get into
it's
things.
almost like what I'm hearing there is like, from an early age, it was the role model in your mother, that it was kind of like,
Hmm.
this is, we deal with what we got to deal with. Like
Yeah.
life has its path for us, and that's the thing that we kind of go with. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and how did that, I guess that's obviously stood you in good stead with the way in which you then approached various challenges, to put it blunt, like mildly, that have come your way. um and just to give people a snapshot then of like the current situation, because anybody watching online will already see, but for those of you that are listening with audio only, you can't see Scott's background, but it is full of soccer, okay, or football as we would call it,
Yes.
um
Yes.
in Europe, right? And actually I suppose this is kind of timely, because I think we can note that there's a fairly large footballing event taking place in
Kind
the
of.
States currently. May have heard of it. The World Cup. um
Mm.
and and I guess, this is your wheelhouse, isn't it? You are all about football.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Let me do a little sidebar just to
Yeah,
fill
do.
you guys in that aren't in the United States. What we're hearing between whatever Trump says,
Right.
which gives a minute a day, I guess, we are hearing that these teams that have come over have been totally accepted and brought into the culture of the cities and towns where they are staying for their training facilities leading up to matches. So the American people are standing up and saying, welcome to our country. What you've heard of isn't totally true, but they're finding out, hope gladly, about the people of this country, because that's what it really boils down to. So
Yeah.
things here for the teams that are in the United States training and preparing for their matches is all good. So we were all worried about how things
Yeah.
are, even the Iranians, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. It tells something about our people. So we're okay, folks.
Yeah.
It's just our president that's an idiot. Um, but where were we going with this?
Well, actually, no. I mean, no, thank you for saying that, actually, because
Yeah.
doesn't that just beautifully illustrate that there is the sport of soccer, football?
Yeah.
Like, there is the sport, there is the sportsmanship, for want of a better word,
Mhm.
sportspersonship. But there is that is certainly my experience with people who are into team sports, who are real fans of the game, and it
Mhm.
extends, doesn't it? Geographical borders and political borders. Like, sport unites. We know this,
Mhm.
and I'm really pleased that you've said that, because outside of the States, the things that we're seeing on the news aren't the beautiful stories of what is actually happening when people are in their camps, and they're kind of doing their training, and they're getting ready for the
Mhm.
games, and now the games have started, and the atmosphere that is clearly being cultivated by the American people within the cities who are celebrating sport and the event of
Mhm.
sport. All we see in our news feeds are all of the, um, I mean, I'm going to just cut to it,
Say it.
the blatant racism that we're seeing about people that are being blocked from entering the
Mhm.
country, like, officials who are literally at the top of their sporting game not being allowed access, and just a lot of I'm going to go the negative aspects, which are the things that
Mhm.
we perhaps didn't expect to see and have seen. So it's, firstly, I want to say thank you for sharing that, because that also does
Mhm.
remind us that literally what we call it, certainly here in the UK, the beautiful game,
Mhm.
still is trying to hold its um its value and its kind of authenticity of what it wants to be, regardless of the stage that it's playing out in, where there's those problems.
You know, um, what we've just been talking about tags into my book, Play from Your
Mm,
Heart, is being tagged as a positive story in negative
yeah.
times. A positive story, negative. It's being picked up as that. So when I got into writing this, I went from a white guy in athletics, just had to win to be successful, and I know how to win, to becoming labeled as disabled,
Mm-hmm.
uh, quad amputee. So overnight, I went from a soccer player and coach at a high level at the university or college level to being and seeing myself as a disabled person. So that's a lot of what I believe we're going to be talking about
Yep.
in our conversation here, Katie. But staying with the beautiful game in that I feel like I'm behind a wall if we're speaking with people outside the United States, because when I first started going over to Europe as a player and as a coach in the 1980s, I remember this kid, we're outside of Holland and being on a bus, and they asked me if I was from the United States. And as soon as I said yes, all these kids came around and we were talking about things. It's not like that anymore. My wife Sue and I went back to Europe a few years ago, and we felt like we had to apologize right away, which we did because, yeah, our country is not looking good, and we know that. So we want to try to pass it on. But we have the chance now, and it seems like we are coming around to soccer, football, helping, hopefully, how we're viewed. The people here care. The people here are need something like this, just as everybody else around the world does, with everything else that's going on. So again, the book being tagged as a positive story, negative times, perfect timing, like you're saying.
Absolutely.
It's all about timing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, what timing you've got, right? Literally with your book being released, because it's out now, isn't it? Was it released not
Yeah, it was
long
just
ago, like
released.
a week ago?
Yeah, a week ago today. Yeah,
Yeah.
just before the World Cup. I mean, that's my publisher. That was a simple call.
They earned their money, didn't they, with that one decision?
Oh yeah, that was a pretty good move because all of our marketing and all of our discussions tend to be on soccer.
Yeah.
Not talking about disability all that much, but hey, whatever, because that's my story. Is, yeah, again, a white guy going from in athletics to all of a sudden being labeled as disabled. So
Yeah.
everything that I've learned about that and going through that, but soccer goes along with it as well, because I continued coaching at the college level even through all of my ordeals.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so yeah, so thank you for taking us up on the side quest.
Mm,
It's not unusual on this podcast that we love a side quest. So that, and I think that is a particularly timely and pertinent
yeah.
and great one. And again, thank you for bringing a bit of light to those of us that maybe don't see what you're seeing. And I think that's just lovely to hear. And I just want to as well say about, when you said around as an American citizen, the feeling the need to apologize for your government. I mean, oh, hello. That's for those again listening on audio, my cat has just jumped up and joined me. So we're gonna just remove you a second. There we go.
I've got one over here
Yeah.
sleeping, so I don't know if she'll come over or not.
I mean, they're always welcome, but this one's a
Yes.
chatty one, so we'll leave him down there. But yeah, also that we carry the weight as citizens, don't we? The weight of the decisions of our kind of respective countries and governments as well.
Yeah.
And that's no different here in the UK. We have questionable policies and practices that are going on, and you do feel that you have to be very mindful of that when you're traveling, and we understand the impact that has. But back to
Yes.
the kind of the joy that you brought in just sharing that little thing with us, you were also sharing the good. So rather than just feeling like we have to apologize for the crap that is also coming out from those with power, we also have the responsibility to remind that actually there is light, there is joy, and we need to harness and remember that, because that's to kind of paraphrase what you were saying, it's the people, it's the American people,
Yes,
who are generating that. And as we know, people and movements and community is kind of the antidote to a lot of the nonsense that goes on
yes,
elsewhere. So thank you for sharing that as a window into something that some of us might be missing as well. It's appreciated.
Yeah, you bet.
So, but back to you, because we're here to talk about you. So if let's rewind then. So you kind of positioned it really nicely there to say, you were just a white guy traveling the world with your athletics, doing what you loved. Tell us about what kind of got you to that point to begin with.
Well, growing up in the United States, especially as a young player in the 1970s, at 16, I was asked to play in the men's side of the club. And around here, it was during the time of the North American Soccer League, Pele, Beckenbauer, Georgie Best was over here. I mean, it was people for us to aspire to. But the way the North American Soccer League was, they were not reaching into the clubs to help bring players. There was no organization beneath NASL, nothing. You just had college and you had clubs. So that's basically all that we could do was compete in our clubs. And then, well, me being 16, looking at leaving high school was to go to the college level, which is what I did. And came out of there uh, as a teacher, as an educator. And so my path, I could have gone straight out of college to be someone's assistant at a college level, but I chose to go teach because that was in my heart to go
Yeah.
educate. I taught social studies and history, and then I would work with the high school's soccer programs. Again, all of this was fledgling, so it was, a lot of education going on and making sure people understood something as simple as the offside rule. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
back that deep. But coming out of there, then I was proving myself and receiving awards and things, and I had the opportunity to go on to the college level, which is what I did. I was coaching the women's side at the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire. This is a Division III, so it's not scholarship. So I wanted to prove myself at this level and advance to go on. But and opportunities were coming my way. My summers between my playing seasons was a lot of times going over to Europe and coaching American youth over there and getting opportunities to play as a guest player. So everything was hunky dory. And after my first year at the college level, uh, Nike asked me to come and speak for them at a regional camp outside of Chicago. So everything was totally on an upward trajectory. And there were national team players there that were under contract with Nike, and top level coaches from across the country were there. So I was in heaven. And the camp was for the top 100 soccer players, male and female, in the Midwest. So perfect for me, just, yeah, I go, I coach at a college. Let's talk. But after the first day, there was a coaches match, and I had to pull myself out, Katie, because something was wrong. I was so fatigued I could barely run much, and I spent that evening either throwing it profusely or sweating like crazy or shivering like crazy in my dorm room. Got up the next morning. Okay, need to do something, but we're doctors around here. This is at a training facility outside of Chicago, but as wise as women are, I went to my mom's because I knew that she'd like, okay, I don't know where doctors are, but I'll go to mom. And as soon as she saw me, she said, "You get your butt over to the emergency room. Something's wrong." She saw
Yeah.
that. Presented myself, had a temperature of 102.8 Fahrenheit, which is pretty sick. And they released me and just said, "Drink Gatorade. You're going to be fine." Went back, woke up the next morning, felt even worse, had to cancel recruiting trips. And the last thing I remember, Katie, is my stepfather backing us out of the driveway and my mom standing outside her kitchen door, just looking freaked out. And that's the last thing I remember for the next month because I slipped into a coma, woke up from the coma to learn that, yes, I had been awake when I presented myself in the hospital the next day, but my brain blocked that out. Maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah.
My organs were shutting down. I was septic. And when I woke up, a doctor explained things to me, and it's blah, blah, blah. I couldn't move. I thought maybe that I was in a car accident or something, and I was paralyzed. So he was talking group A strep and necrotising fasciitis. And then when he dropped the first bomb was the media was calling it the flesh-eating disease. Okay, I have a general idea. Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, a few years earlier in 1990, this was 1993 when I was sick, he passed from this very quickly. So I had a good idea what was going on. Then he dropped the big bomb, and the word amputations came up. And I was told that in order to save my life, my mother and a brother had to make the decision either let me die, and if I wasn't an athlete, I would have been dead. And actually, the doctor wrote a paper and gave a presentation on how I survived it. And it came down to one of those things of, we don't know. He was supposed to be dead, but who cares? It could be the human spirit, could be athletics and things. But they had to make a decision, either pull the plug or amputate both hands, parts of both feet, in order to stop the progression of the flesh dying, and I won't go into what would cause that, and then see how I would handle life. I mean, a huge decision that
Yeah.
they had to make, and I woke up to learn all of this. Good thing was that I learned that I wasn't moving. I wasn't able to move. I wasn't able to talk also because I was intubated. I had lost 40 pounds of basically muscle through atrophy, laying in bed straight for a month and just having
Yeah.
liquids. That'll force someone. That's a diet for you, but don't do it, folks, because loss of muscle is not a good thing.
No.
So then it was, okay, now what? And I did two things. One was a good thing, Katie. One was, okay, you now given me something to work on, because being an athlete, I knew how to gain back muscle. I knew how to do that. Okay, good. Something to focus on. But the bad thing, the dumb thing I did was to skip right into the denial phase of the 5 stages of grief. Okay, so I was in denial. It was basically, if I could have spoken, it would have been, okay, just throw me in a wheelchair and let me get back up to the university, because I know that, according to what you tell me, I've been asleep for a month, my players are arriving soon for preseason training. It
Mm.
would have been that. Yeah, I'm fine. No problem. Wrong.
Right.
Wrong, 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 wrong. I don't know if it's a male thing or what. It was dumb. And I did return 4 more years. We had a nationally ranked program when I got sick, and we continued to, until I started sliding, and I ended up sliding smack dab into the brick wall of depression 4 years later. So there's that part in a nutshell, to give folks an idea of, we're thinking that this is rock bottom. This is not rock bottom in the story, and there's so much more to come from it, which is what led to writing Play From Your Heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah. And what I'm hearing that's a real significant impact on your life, isn't it? And I totally understand what you're saying in that like physically your body had, and I'm going to ask you because I'm pretty sure you was it necrotizing fasciitis?
necrotising fasciitis,
Yeah.
yes.
So we'll come back and we'll talk about what that is, because I think
Okay.
that's really important, because we say that as if
Okay.
everyone's a medical professional. So we're all just going to be like, ah, yes,
Oh,
no idea.
no
So we'll
idea.
talk about that. But
Okay.
just in what I'm hearing there, I'm a visual thinker in it, and it's almost as if, your body has undergone such a significant trauma, to cope with physically, but your mind was still kind of like, I got stuff to do. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine. And that's kind of almost like that resilience that you've had within you as as an athlete, as someone who is so
Mm-hmm.
tuned into something of like, okay, fine, how do we get back, how do we get over this, what's the solution, how are we
Mm-hmm.
fixing this?
Exactly.
So there's that double whammy there, isn't there, of
Mm-hmm.
having to retrain one, the physical aspect of you, and also retrain the mental aspect of you to cope with what's going on physically. So let's rewind.
Okay.
So what is, for those of us that didn't go to doctor school, what is necrotizing fasciitis?
What happens is, when we're sick, our body takes care of us. Especially, it starts with the core. It protects the core. And by doing this, one of the things it can do is send out white blood cells. Well, I was so doggone sick, and the body just triggers emergency, 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 white blood cells, white blood cells. And maybe it was because I was in such good shape that my body could produce so many, but at the same time, that was a negative thing, because white blood cells can clog if you don't have consistent blood flow. So, and of course, think about this: the extremities, where the ends of the hands and fingers and toes are, those blood vessels are going to be smaller because you're at the end of the rope, so to speak. So things would start to clog there. And without blood flow, things die. Okay. So without blood flow, the ends of the started with the ends of the fingers and the toes. And I was told later that almost hourly, family could see the progression, uh, things becoming darker and becoming purple and becoming black as it kept moving up my extremities. So they reached the point By the time the illness, so to speak, the death of my skin reached the mid forearm and mid forefoot, that decision had to be made. Like, they can't let this continue.
Yeah.
This is it. Let's make a decision. And again, my mother and one of my brothers made that decision, and then it was amputations, and then
That's
see how things would
terrifying
be.
though, right? That's got to have been a terrifying scenario for them to have witnessed as well. This kind
Yeah.
of something that's progressing and happening to someone they love and care about so much is one thing, and then being faced with the decision they then had to make, like that's a terrifying prospect, right? Isn't it?
I we've we've had we've all skirted around the issues. In the book, I ask a niece, a nephew, a sister, my mom, and the brother that made the decision to write a little bit, and I included it during one section of the book, because when I sat down to write this, first thing was be open, be honest.
Yeah.
Have to get all this through. And I asked them to please write openly and honestly of their experience through this. So we include all of that so everyone could learn from everything else that was going on at the same time. I mean, I learned stories, Kate. I mean, there were multiple family members, not if they weren't able to be in the intensive care unit, they were there on the floor, in the waiting room, and laughing, joking, doing whatever. Somebody told me that other people thought that they were being rude, but no, they were hoping that maybe I would hear them,
Yeah.
and that would help. I
And
mean,
it's a coping
that's love.
strategy, right? Isn't it? A lot of people, a
Yeah.
lot of us like default to humor
Mm.
when we are scared, when we don't know
Yes.
what else to do, because it's a way of protecting ourselves from just spiraling into absolute panic, right? Which I'm sure could have also been quite
Mm-hmm.
easy for them to in a worry. But and I think it's brilliant that that was your thought process going into your book as well, because it's kind of it's your story, but it's the
Mm.
full story, isn't it, of the impact of everything that got that came with everything that you went through. Like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just you.
No, I've taken it on. I, I have a responsibility because I'm with the book. I'm gaining a platform, and again, I have a responsibility to share this, because so many people, the disabled people in this world, are not getting a fair shake.
Yeah.
For example, here's a little quick pitch about hire the disabled. If you think about it, employers, you're dealing with someone that depends on the severity, has to deal with a bunch of crap every day. Therefore, they have a tough work ethic that you're probably not going to get from your non-disabled. And therefore, they're also going to be dedicated in that, gosh, someone gave me an opportunity. Because again, going from that white guy to being disabled, I learned about discrimination. I was discriminated against later on, and I am open about this. Of course, I don't use real names. I'm open about this in the book. The
Yeah.
discrimination that goes on. And you know what? It always comes from males. I have never been discriminated against by a female.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes to prior to a match, shaking the hand of the opposing coach. And so many times the males would either pull back, or there were times that I could sense that they thought they had one up on me because they realized here's a severely disabled guy I'm going up against. Like, I got him. No,
What?
don't count me out, because I usually turned it around on him. But it never happened with a female coach. Never.
Yeah. And thank you for
Interesting.
sharing so honestly about that, because you know this is your lived experience, this is your observation, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to say that this is the case for everyone, but actually when you notice a pattern, it's a
Mm-hmm.
pattern, isn't it, right?
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and and I'm always a fan of talking about how, like, we all have our own frame of reference, and sometimes it's really difficult to see what lives outside of that. And
Yes.
sometimes we have to have either our own direct lived experience of something, or we have to know someone that something has happened to, or an
Mm-hmm.
experience they have been through, for it to kind of shine that light on or bring something to us to be like, I hadn't even thought that would be something that would happen, or that would be something that would occur. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's kind of really curious, isn't it, that this is the bubbles that we live in, and we have to actively try and step outside, which I also think is brilliant that you are doing these podcasts and doing the media that you're doing and writing the book and sharing so generously your experiences and your thoughts. And actually coming back to the point that you made around, hiring disabled people, well then absolutely, and that goes for any kind of group that would be considered marginalized or previously excluded, right? Because
Yes.
actually when people feel like they don't belong, and you're creating the kind of environment that values, respects, and includes them, you have got
Mm-hmm.
committed, dedicated, and probably very
Exactly.
resilient staff, right?
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes. So why not?
yeah,
I
and the
don't
benefit
understand.
of that is, just because you're making something better and including people who maybe don't normally get included or who might be different to
Mm.
you or whom you would previously have employed, no one is any worse off for it. Like nothing
Right.
nothing gets worse as a result of being more inclusive.
Yeah. And one of the things with this that goes along with it, Katie, is I've learned because of becoming disabled and then getting it, well, I have to do a lot of marketing. We're selling a book. I've learned that the disabled community here in the United States seems fairly non-existent. And people over in the UK and over in Europe, and I have some friends down in Africa as well. Over there, at best, it seems to be splintered. So I always keep preaching because I'm not that deep into it. That why not just take the roadmap that the LGBTQ plus community has done, take that and apply it towards the disabled community. Look at what has happened over the last couple of decades. There are television shows, movies built off of male, male, female, female, whatever, cross-racial um, uh, couples and things it's become fairly mainstream.
Yeah,
I'll still say fairly mainstream.
yeah,
It isn't totally in there yet. But what about the disabled? I mean, sometimes we see a commercial with someone in the background that's in a wheelchair. Okay, but
yeah,
there needs to be more done. It really
yeah.
does.
Do you know, and I think that's such a really like, there is so much we can learn within communities that shit can be shared across communities. And that's why I like with organizations when they do employee resource groups, is what we'd call them in the UK, where you bring communities of people together so you can hear their feedback and get a real understanding of lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and those groups share amongst themselves as well, because again, what you do to help one community, if it does not directly benefit all communities, it certainly opens your mind to thinking, oh well, if we can do that in this scenario, what else
Mm-hmm.
can we do that we maybe thought we couldn't? And it is that kind of that type of learning and that kind of attention that absolutely I'm absolutely here for. And just as you were saying that, I was thinking about in the media as well, because even though it's becoming more mainstream, I'm still really excited when we get characters that come from kind of previously excluded groups and their presence isn't about their difference.
Mm.
When you have like a detective show and there is someone with a disability, and they're not in it because they've got a disability, they're a detective who has a disability. It's like
Okay.
that's it, and that's not the storyline, because they're just a person. And I think that for me is one of the more powerful
Mm.
moves, when we have a trans person playing their character, but the storyline has nothing to do with the fact they're trans, they're just a trans person playing a character. And I think that is the normalization that I think is so important.
And that's where we need to get to, but I think it's just going to take time. With the marketing and the book dropping just as the World Cup's starting, so much of it's about soccer right now. I
Yeah,
mean, it is.
for sure.
So why not? I mean, that's the basis of the book. That's the what we're standing on uh, for presentation with the book because it's true. But I'm open. I'm interested to see where this might carry me after we get through the World Cup and such. I mean,
Yeah,
I went into this thinking to help and be part of the disabled community, to shine a light on it. And then there's also the soccer community, two huge groups in this world. But what I'm getting out of this, Katie, it's well over 95% of anybody I speak with in the media. It's about the human interest side. And part of it is that, positive story in negative times. because
Yeah.
it's needed. So when we come through the tunnel of probably this summer, I'm interested to see what's on the other end. If there are
Mhm.
any disability groups that want to reach out and say, hey, be an ambassador or something, or just get
Yeah.
your face out there and talk because of the book. Uh, I've also been asked, and I've written a screenplay because that story is that deep, or I would say Disney-esque, with what
Yeah.
happens in the second half of the book. I have no clue what's coming, but I'm open to it. If it's
Yeah.
anything to help that disability community, I'm all for it because, hey, folks, I'm severely disabled. So why not use someone like me, or if I'm asked to, there's someone that's kind of doing okay by being disabled.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mainstream.
absolutely. And interestingly, I don't know whether in the US whether the conversations are the same, but we have kind of the way we talk about disability, certainly in the UK, is through two different model lenses, where we have kind of the medical model where it's always talking about like the physical disability, and then we have the social
Mm-hmm.
model, which is actually, people are people and they are disabled by the environment that they're in. And we're
Yes.
always kind of trying to steer the conversation towards actually, somebody may either have acquired a disability or something, but actually the only time that it's ever a quote unquote problem is when they're in an environment that is not um, accessible to them because
Mm-hmm.
of the environment and not because of them as a human. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is always a conversation worth having, right? Isn't it? Because we all just we can all exist. Like, we all do really well. It's only when something is presented to you that is completely inaccessible to you that that thing is a problem.
Mm-hmm. I, we're getting into some stuff I think is, you've got my mind going too. First of all, when Sue and I were in Paris a few years ago, had a big suitcase, and I thought, oh, okay, well, let's take the subway, just to get over to the hotel instead of a taxi. Well, the subways in Paris, I learned, are not for the disabled. We didn't find we were looking for elevators. So here we are. I had the big luggage and Sue had a luggage, and we had to go up and down stairs in the Paris subway because there was no accessibility. I mean, okay, if I missed something, I'll admit to it. But it sure seemed like there were some issues going on there that, we still haven't tackled. A lot has changed since I was a kid, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
For the better. For
Yeah.
the better. Acceptance is one thing, which I think is the start. But when we get into things that cost mega bucks, that's when some people, I think, throw up a bit of a tither, about getting things done. But I think we're on the right path. There are
Mm-hmm.
opportunities ahead.
Yeah.
So
For
let's
sure.
see where they
For
take
sure. For
us.
sure.
As long as we
And
keep
yeah,
pushing.
yeah. And I'm just gonna just stick a pin in this piece as well for people to come back to, that when we get to the end of this conversation, if you are listening to this and you are someone who's thinking, do you know what, we would really love to have Scott's involvement in X project or this initiative or this thing that we've got on the horizon, then come back. We're gonna give you Scott's contact details at the end. These
Yep.
are this is the
Yep.
reason we have these podcast conversations, so that you can
Yep.
continue the conversation more broadly. So if you've already had a thought pop into your mind at this point where you're like, oh, when Scott said that,
Okay.
write that down. And if you're driving, don't worry, we'll put it in the show notes. The contact details will be there. It's all okay. You can come back and you can reconnect with Scott. So
Yes.
let's bring it back to you. Let's pick back up on you and
Okay.
your story. So you have, you're at this point now where you've had this quite significant life shift
Mm-hmm.
that has affected you both physically within your body, but also then, as we're saying, kind of
Mentally.
mentally with your mental health and your capacity to be able to process that. So what came next?
Oh. So as I was saying, the quality of the program and my coaching and inability to recruit properly, because I got to the point where I was lacking in confidence so much. I looked down upon myself so poorly, Katie. If I went to a youth tournament where there are high school players, potential college recruits, it would be before the illness, go with business cards and say, hey, I like your play. Let's talk. I lost that. So therefore, it was recruiting basically by email. That's how bad it got. But I did the right thing and I resigned because I wasn't helping the program. So I pulled back. And within 3 months from my resignation, I went out east to attend a couple of interviews. And that's where I experienced one of the first worst experiences of discrimination. And I present this in the book again, being open and honest about everything. After being interviewed by an athletic director and walking down the hallway and stopping to get a drink of water, I heard him yell across the hallway to his secretary, why did I just interview a guy with no hands for this position? And yeah, everybody can say, what? Yeah, discrimination. I mean, how
Blatant.
I, but I can't do anything about it. It's up to the gentleman. So still within this 3 month period of time, we ended up having a 2 week long $10 million medical malpractice lawsuit against the physician that saw me originally in the emergency room. And with a temperature of 102.8 Fahrenheit, he should have triggered blood tests. And our side was, well, if he would have triggered blood tests, they would have seen the white blood cell count was getting out of whack. And their person, of course, said, no, it didn't make any difference. So, I mean, 2 weeks long, this was really, I mean, there are 2 chapters devoted to this. And I tell you, it could easily have been an episode or a piece from a, a, a trial program, judge would, throw something out or whatever, people would dispute things. And it was a very interesting place to be, but I lost. And remember getting the phone call from my attorney. I was at a friend's apartment and just saying, okay, I'm going to go now. And I lived in a 3-tiered apartment, and then the bottom was the garage. And I remember we're pulling in, and this is where I'm very honest in the book, have to be, turning off the car and closing the garage door, which was automatic for me, but chuckling, just thinking that, geez, there would be people that wouldn't be surprised if I didn't turn my car off. Or there would be people that wouldn't be surprised if I went out and bought a pistol. I had nothing. No job, no zip. That was it. But when we get to that point in our lives, it's like make or break. And I chose to break myself down in order to build myself back up. I looked for positions around and took a job at Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, with this guy that said, "I love what your your coaching style, what you're doing," because I sent him a coaching manual that I had written, but I don't have any money. Don't worry, don't worry. I'll come out and work for free. I'll work with your tactical side, and we'll try to prepare your team better and evaluate the opponent and things, better match preparation. Don't pay me anything. So I set up everything. I was on food stamps. I was living in a crappy apartment, but I was starting to get happy again because, again, that stripping myself down, breaking myself down to nothing. I mean, when I left where I was, I pitched all my awards, photos, trophies, blah, blah, blah. I pitched it all and sold everything that didn't fit into my little car. My cat Bogart was on my shoulder. We drove for 3 days out to Washington. It was 3 days of basically bliss because it was just hanging out with my cat, driving on great country roads, and cranking music. Here it was.
Just
And
just
yeah,
before you take that point on, because what if there are two things that are standing out to me. The first is that what a moment of absolute kind of freedom that you allowed yourself there, like that moment of just release
exactly.
of
Yeah,
giving yourself over to, well, this is what I'm doing, so here I am.
yeah.
And that's an incredibly vulnerable thing to do.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had no other choice. No other choice. So here's where things got really weird. Within 2 years, I got married to a physician that I first went to I had to get a prescription in order to start seeing a psychiatrist. So I was going to start doing work on me.
Mm-hmm.
So we were married. I had an opportunity to coach at Gonzaga University in Washington. And that kind of went awry because we had to deal with the guy I went to work for, knew a lot of people. And that was why I wanted to work with him. And he got me the position where I was going to come in as an assistant coach to the head coach at Gonzaga. I'll try to tamp this down. He was going to leave at a time that would force the university to name me as the interim head coach. Great. I could prove myself at the Division I level. But the problem was at the same time they hired a new athletic director and he wasn't aware of the deal. So my deal got lost, but they did still bring me in as an assistant. And it was not a good experience because of the head coach I was working under. It was not a good experience. But here we are. When I went back home with my wife one weekend, and we're watching a news show of this couple out of Seattle that adopted two children from Haiti because there was an earthquake there or something. I swear, Katie, within 10 minutes, I was upstairs in the office studying adoption. And the next morning, I called and left a message with the athletic director. I'm glad he didn't pick up because he probably would have thought I was crazy. That please remove my name from consideration for the head coaching position. I'm going to do something else. Okay. Within the next 4 years, adopted two children from Romania, three children from Ethiopia. Those one at a time. It was from Ethiopia. It was a boy, girl, girl, and all of those kids witnessed their parents die of AIDS. I mean, it was. I don't know. I don't know how this happened. It was something that pulled me. Basically, it yanked me. This is what you're supposed to do, and I left. I basically left coaching, especially at a high level, for 20 years. Just became Tata, which is Romanian for father. It was Tata for 20 years, until I got the itch back. And that's where the second half of the book comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. So you became a full-time parent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Here, one thing though, it was good. All the kids came home just past diaper stage. So I never had to change a diaper, which is fantastic. With what I use, I mean, I could have done it, but some things might absorb into the rubber. So I'm very glad that they were all past diaper
The
stage.
universe was on your side
Yes.
in that
Uh-huh.
scenario. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
But I had a blast. That was
Good.
fun.
Good. And so and I guess with with your family now as well. So this is kind of your continued growing family, as you said before you kind of got into the second half of the book. But your family remains your family, right? They're still
Yeah.
just because you went back to coaching doesn't mean that your family stopped being your family, right?
Well, kind of, sort of, because during those 20 years, we moved around the country a bit. Her being a doctor, our relationship ended up splintering. So later on, we ended up divorcing, and so during the second that comes into play, a
Mm.
divorce. But I don't. I really just use the adoption and the divorce as a one chapter bridge
Yeah.
from the first half of the book to the second half of the book.
Fine.
So
Yeah. So
writing wise, it was easier that way.
fair enough. So another transition, a significant
Yes.
transitional period.
Yes.
So without kind of giving us too many spoilers, because obviously we have to read the book to find out the full story, but where kind of does the second half see you go? Because
Oh,
you know
this is where I knew I had a book, and this is where, if my screenplay is purchased, we know we have a movie. I mean, it's been told, oh, that's a Disney movie. You got to write a screenplay, or you need to make this happen. It's like, okay, yeah, this is very Disney-esque. So I ended up, when my youngest was well established in high school, I decided to go back, and I to coaching, and I was asked to come and coach in this club in Washington State, north of Seattle. One of these where parents pay thousands of dollars for their kids to go play, mega bucks, and with the expectation, maybe college afterward, scholarships or national team player, whatever, pros, whatever. So a lot of pressure on this. But even with my resume, I showed up and there was a new director of coaching who never shook my hand that told me something right there. And he's kind of the antagonist of the second half of the book. He is the antagonist of the second half of the book. Just the attitude, more discrimination, I believe, against me. So I showed up and it was uh, so what's my assignment? Well, you're coaching the C team. Like, huh? What's C me? Well, you're not coaching the A team. You're not coaching the B team. You're coaching the C team of 12-year-olds. So the under 13s. Wow. Seriously. But I had been to the tryout sessions and I saw that the A team took the biggest kids that performed well in drills. The B team, that guy was cool, by the way. He just took, whatever was the next. And I was left with the smaller ones that didn't perform so well in drills, which is fine with me. I hate drills in training. Don't like drills in training. It's about play. But these kids were lacking in confidence. Perfect. Me too.
So it
It was
feels like
actually
there's some synergy there.
exactly. So when I look back, it was, well, that's where I should have been placed in anyway, that guy didn't know that. But it's just where I was. And it was one of these things in life that now we have a Disney movie stirring because these kids lacking confidence, and so did I. We were on the same path together. So the way things were done for youth in Washington State is summers are for tournament play. So we started training in spring in preparation for tournaments. So we started working on starting to build their confidence, getting them to be more cohesive as a team. Didn't do many drills at all. A lot of play. Put the kids under pressure so they can learn how to perform under pressure. Bing. And I was criticized for that too. So we ended up going through the summer, 5 tournaments, advancing in our first one, making it to the quarterfinal in our second, semifinal in our third. People see what's coming now.
Yeah.
Tournaments 4 and 5, we made it to the final, but we lost in both finals. We lost. And at the end of the summer, I was instructed to meet with every kid and their parents and talk about things. Last question I asked every kid: how did that feel losing in the final of those 2 tournaments? They were mad. This isn't happening. They were no longer lacking confidence.
Yeah.
That was the
They were
key.
hungry. Yeah.
Exactly. So we got them ready for this. What came up next during the fall and into winter was an 18-match state league season. This is what preparation was all about. So do you want me to just cut to the chase with what happened, or you want me to explain a little bit, what you got?
Yeah,
What do you
go on.
want, Katie?
Let's fast forward then.
Okay.
Let's
All right.
yeah.
So 18 matches, uh, undefeated state league champions from these kids. That started from the director of coaching telling me, just keep the parents happy. We need the income.
Right.
So from no expectation to basically, and this totally goes along with my story, flipping off those people that didn't think I could do anything and didn't think that these kids could do anything to going undefeated and winning a state championship. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a book, there's a movie.
There's the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And it's God, what an awesome experience. Ended up, this is where, we'd gone through divorce. I moved back to Wisconsin, where I originally from. And there's more to it. Ended up coming back home and getting into a relationship with someone I had met when I was 19 and she was 17. 40 years passed. We got back together and now we're married. And I ended up grabbing another group of kids and winning another state championship here in Wisconsin. So you're talking about full circle,
Yeah.
totally full circle, on that positive aspect of what can happen
Yeah.
with life sometimes. It's been
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, it is cool and it's beautiful, isn't it? And I love how you've really leaned into the, for want of a better word, the opportunity that
Mm.
presented itself to you along the way, even though it could have been so easy for you to have um kind of turned inward,
Yeah.
to have isolated yourself, to have
Hmm.
kind of excluded yourself from society, if you'd have leaned into the kind of views of people that maybe did not want you to participate in society, if you'd have listened. So I think, like you say, back to you and your mum and what you learned, credit to you, credit to her. Sorry, I'm just depositing a
No, no,
cat
no.
again for those that were watching. Um, yeah, it could have been so different, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, it was not just rosy after the
Yeah.
adoptions. I still, I was no longer myself. For a long time, decades, I will admit to this, I did a pretty good job of faking myself. Internally, I didn't, I didn't go out into public all that much because in my mind, everyone was looking at my fake hands. I was there for decades, folks,
Yeah.
truly. I'm now to the point, I mean, I think a lot of it, two things, being with Sue and writing. Because I made the pact with myself, I was going to be open and honest about it. Writing became extremely cathartic, and it probably became kind of like a psychologist for me
Mm-hmm.
because I internalized positive things and expressed the negative in order to help bring me around to being that old cocky self I was before I got sick. And that's where I am.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. And it's good that you have been able to reconnect with yourself in that way.
Yeah.
And in that you found the way that was right for you and how to process that and how to reconnect. And I'm also curious in terms of, for people listening along, you've touched on very briefly, but I'm sure you have several significant examples along the way of the discrimination you faced, or the experiences you've had with people where, like you say, maybe they've not known how to interact with you, and the impact that that has on you. So
Mm-hmm.
what kind of things could you suggest, or could you ask people to be thinking more about from their perspectives, when they start trying to build more inclusive environments that are more kind of accessible, and from a mindset perspective about when they're interacting with people who maybe have got physical disabilities that are quite more obvious, perhaps, like what kind of
Mm.
things do you wish people would think about in those scenarios?
The people that are disabled, cut yourself some slack. Just give yourself some time. It took me decades.
Yeah.
Decades. For those that are in positions around the disabled, cut them some slack, will you? I mean, seriously, don't 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 think of them as being less than, or you're going to run into someone like me that'll prove you wrong because you just gave me incentive. Just be human and understand that this could happen to anyone at any time. It did me. I had no, it just happened, and better be ready for it because it might, and someone that you love. Look what
Yeah.
happened to my family, friends, and my
Yeah.
players.
Yeah.
So life is one hell of a weird thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we
And
have
I
to be
think
ready.
that's so important in a sense of, thank you for your message as well, so people who might be processing for themselves something, or
Mm.
even if like you say it's been a long time and they've done a lot of internal work and processing, I'm sure, as for most of us, things pop back up, don't they, when you're feeling less resilient, when you've got less bandwidth. um yes, Tiber agrees. Things pop up, and they can catch you off guard, can't they?
Oh yeah. I mean, at any time, we all go through this. We all go through this, and depends on who we're with as well. You know, um, when Sue and I started communicating through Messenger, I was still in Washington, and one of the first things was, I don't know if she knows what happened to me. And she did some research, and we've talked about this, of course, on how it was shocking to her. But when we did finally get together physically and emotionally through that way. It was, oh, this is the same guy.
Yeah.
She saw through it, which actually made me feel more comfortable with it. The relationship, the marriage I was in before was not a situation where it was conducive for me to settling in and rediscovering myself. It just wasn't. And I, of course, would not go into that.
Yeah.
But we all have things that we go through, and we all have to deal with certain things, some things that are huge, some things that aren't so bad that also affect us so much, and everything that we're dealing with on how things. So, in writing Play from Your Heart, I hope people first find it to be thought provoking. So, people that are disabled, not disabled, soccer people, so many people, that are looking for some light at the end of the tunnel of their own can find it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
however they want to present. Oh, one of the things I want to bring up, Katie, I thought it was really profound. So going through this, you write, you send it off to, if you're lucky enough to have a publisher, send it off to be edited. Second time I received the book back from the editor, it was pretty clean, but I noticed something in it. I play music at training, and I bring up songs in the storyline. And so the second time it came back from the editor, I was reading it electronically. I opened up a second tab and went to Spotify. I thought, I'm going to do something. Whenever a song comes up and is referred to in the story, I plug it in and I listen to the song in Spotify and then come back. So I didn't intend this, but it's really cool. It's an interactive book. I mean, we can't, copyright laws, I can't put a link for people to go click you. I'm sorry, you're going to have to plug it into Spotify. Go listen to it and come back. We've got 15, 16 songs in there that I'm not meaning to create, a playlist or anything, but it's there. So go take advantage of it. Go listen to it, come back. And I think the reading is going to have more meaning to people because they're going to be able to feel it through the music and sense it through the reading as well. I think it's really cool.
That is cool, like the emotive
Yeah.
connection to the, as
Mm-hmm.
music does, doesn't it? It anchors us in a
Yes.
point in time, and yeah,
Yeah.
oh, gorgeous. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's really
Yeah.
amazing.
I want people
Um,
to try it.
yeah, that's. I think that is. It's just made it yet another cool step, hasn't it, as to why we should get involved and why we should buy this book.
Hey,
So
go ahead.
let's talk about the book, because
Okay.
I think we've heard your story, but we haven't felt, like you said, the full emotional journey that you've been on, which is what you cover for.
Mm.
I mean, there's so much that we haven't spoken about that is in the book. So where can people get hold of it?
Wherever they buy books.
Okay.
I think it's funny over here. I noticed that people, when we were doing the pre-orders, started 6 months before the book dropped recently. People could pre-order and they can buy them now in Walmart online, which I just think is funny. Is like, I have a book that's being sold on Walmart. That's strange. But Amazon, Barnes and Noble, I don't know what the reach is over in Europe. I hope people can find things. I don't know if they can go on the Amazon UK site and then Play from Your Heart is there. They might have to go, I don't know, Barnes and Noble reaches over there, whatever. But it's basically Play from Your Heart wherever books are sold. So
Excellent stuff. And we'll make sure as well that we'll put some links in the show notes as well to shortcut that for people to make it
okay,
even easier. So
cool.
that no one has to worry about the geography that they're in, they can find it.
Okay.
So that is good. And if people want to kind of connect with you and follow up, we said we were going to pop a pin in that, so we're coming
Yep.
back.
Yep.
How can people reach out to you and connect with you for further conversation?
And this has happened from people. People can reach me at reader dot play from your heart. So reader dot play from your heart at gmail.com. Yeah. A couple of unscrupulous types have reached out and tried to pitch me on, oh, you're an author, I can help you. No.
Oh, that
Uh,
that old chestnut sales. Would you
yeah,
like to
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
consistent leads to your no
Blah, blah.
goodbye?
Yeah, it's basically, my publisher has a great marketing team. It goes through them. Okay, bye.
Excellent stuff. So you've got someone doing the filtering. So if people
Yeah.
reach out, it's probably worth then, if you're going to use reader.playfromyourheart@gmail.com,
Mm-hmm.
please also make sure to put something in there to say that you heard Scott on the podcast, the Speaking of
Cool.
Inclusion podcast, so that the team know you're legit and you're not going to try and pitch him something or sell him something that isn't
Perfect.
absolute gold.
Very
Because
good, Katie.
we only have great people that listen to this and watch this, so we need to make sure that they know who you are.
Good.
Good. And I always like to finish with the same question for everybody. So is there anything, Scott, that you came to say that you haven't had an opportunity to say?
I really like that we had the opportunity to talk about the disabled community and so much that still has to happen. LGBTQ plus, rah, rah, great job. Disabled community, there's some work to be done, folks, you know? So, yeah, I'm glad
And
we were able to talk about that.
definitely. I completely echo that, because whatever people think they're doing, there is always more to be done. There is always more thought. There is always more engagement. There are always more conversations to be had. So reach out to Scott and keep those conversations going.
Sure.
Super duper. I'm going to add on a final one question for you, because it's football related, soccer related.
Okay. Oh God, you're not going to ask me who's going to win.
Surely I am. Yes.
Let me tell you this.
Who's your top pick?
Let me tell you this. Well, I'm not predicting this because I'm not stupid. Maybe dumb, but I'm not stupid. God, the U.S. looks good. I'm serious. And mark my words, if they do end up getting really far, yes, I said it first, but I'm not really saying it. But yes, I am. I noticed in the warm up against Germany, they did not give an inch to the Germans. It was, you're going to respect us. And there were some near fights towards the end. And I remember texting with my brother. We grew up playing together. And I said to him, mark my words, man, something's coming out of this, because that team is tight and they are not afraid of even the Germans. And last Friday when they opened, it's like, holy crap, this is over here. Everyone is just, oh my God, look at this. Now they need to prove it against Australia. All right. So France, of course, is a simple choice. Germany, heck, they scored 7. When is England playing? Is that coming up today or something?
It won't matter by the
Yeah,
time
well, we'll know by the time this
it would
is
have
up.
gone fine.
I've heard good things and bad things from. I've got some friends over there. One person he was interviewing me for a magazine or something, and he was downplaying it. He was English, and it's for an English newspaper or something over there. But he was admitting, we're not that good this time. So Spain was surprised. I think Portugal. I think my brother's picking Portugal. I have not gone out on a limb yet and said, for sure this is who the winner is going to be. But watch out for the U.S. There's something special there.
Ooh, he's seen a twinkle. He's seen a twinkle that those boys might have it.
Yes.
So let's watch that space and see what can happen. Well, there's got to be, to be honest, Scott, there's got to be something decent coming out of the US at the minute. So let's hope it's that.
Oh God, something positive.
No, wouldn't that be a beautiful way to signal some, some joy? So that would be grand, wouldn't it?
We could use it because,
we will take it where we can get it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Scott Martin, thank you so much for joining me on the Speaking of Inclusion podcast.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. And how is Wisconsin today?
Gorgeous.
Good.
Like it's just fantastic weather. We've been having great spring. Last year we did something strange. We pulled out our yard and we planted all of these, put in all of these types of flowers that'll be good for bees and butterflies and things like that.
Nice.
So trying to give back. Yeah, it's my wife was a little worried that the neighbors probably think that we're people that don't take care of our yard. And no, it's exactly the opposite. Just give it some time.
Yeah, we call that meadowing here.
Thank you. That's a perfect term. I will express that to her. We are meadowing, honey. We are meadowing.
It's purposeful. It's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I often say that about I use that sarcastically about my garden. I'm like, no, I'm meadowing. All it is I haven't had the chance to mow the lawn. I'm meadowing. It's not weeds.
No, exactly.